What's up, guys? And in today's video, we have the man himself, Mr. Jean-Francois, the owner and CEO of Turn It Up Live Media. I'm sure you guys have heard of him. If you haven't, I'm sure he can also just introduce himself and tell you guys about what he is cooking up. So, Mr. Jean-Francois, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Perry, for the introduction and welcome everyone. So, my name is Jean-Francois from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and I'm a digital marketer focusing primarily on helping wellness clinic owners scale and being able to digitalize their systems.
Great, great. How did you get started in your journey, basically? How did you get started?
Now, that's a great question. So, for me, it goes back probably like 7 years ago, and that goes
Hmm.
back to when I was probably around like teen stage. And I was pretty much doing a lot of things when it comes to like door knocking and telemarketing and a lot of the things that you typically would do at a teenage age, just trying to figure out what's your next thing. And for
Hmm.
me, I pretty much didn't know what I wanted to do, man. Like my mom always told me that I could be a lawyer, a doctor, any kind of, high respected career, but
Hmm.
that wasn't really my thing. So at the time, I was balancing college and I needed to find a job. So I pretty much did the door knocking, did the telemarketing, and eventually, during my second year of college, I pretty much just woke up one day, went to class like normal, and I actually walked through the cafeteria, and there was this lady that was actually talking about like how much resources we can actually use in terms of students, like medical or healthcare, or also being able to get resources for food. And I just thought it was interesting, right? Because I'm an immigrant too, so I figured, hey man, if we can get some free resources, let's go. So I pretty much sit down and I start listening to her, and I'm just getting like a bunch of information that I thought was very valuable. Then at the end
Really?
of the I go up there and
Hmm.
I say, "Hey, listen, you had such an amazing presentation. But how come there's not a lot of students that are here looking at this presentation? We need to know more about this." Because in the actual room there was about like 12 of us, and I was like, "Nah, man, there needs to be more people around here knowing about this." She said, like, I don't know why. I promoted, I put posters up. Like if you look over there, there's posters. Like I did what I could do. And I said, "What? Those posters? I mean, I just walked by. I didn't even know the posters were there." But what I did hear was you speaking passionately about what you do, and that pretty much intrigued me to actually want to see what was going on. So I asked her like, "Hey, did you think about like social media? Like, did you think about posting on Facebook and Instagram?" And she was a bit older, so she was like, "Yeah, listen, I have my Facebook page for my family members, but that's about it. I don't use it for like promoting events and stuff like that." And I said, "Well, we're students. This is where we all hang out, so you should think about doing this." And she's like, "Well, I don't know how to do that." And another thing that I kind of had a conflict with myself was like I didn't know how to do a lot of things. I wasn't a basketball player in high school. I wasn't next level in terms of academics. But what I did know was how to use social. I knew how to use Instagram. I knew how to use Facebook. And I told her like, listen, I can help you implement at least a page where you can actually showcase your events. And then on Instagram, you can also start promoting your events with video. She said, okay, bet. Let's go sit down. Let's talk about it. So, same day, she pretty much signed me up as her marketing agent. And I pretty much should start doing her content, filming her videos of her events, putting on her platform. And then for the first, like, I think week, we got about like 30 people that started coming to the events. Then 100 people started coming to the events. And then she just saw the benefits of it. And that was the first time I realized, like, man, I can actually do something that's actually useful. And I know how to do it too. So then I started actually freelancing a little bit in terms of that. And then probably like 3 years down the line, that's how I kind of built my company and being able to actually help, especially speakers and event builders on that part. And eventually it switched up to becoming Turned Up Live Media. But so that's a brief overview.
Interesting. And what made you focus specifically on that niche? I mean, I know you were doing, you started out doing for this one lady, but what made you now decide that, hey, I'm gonna work within, business speakers per se? Like, what made you decide that? What opportunities did you see, basically?
Well, like the example I provided y'all, so she was one of, I think, five that were kind of in
Hmm.
the similar space. And I think they just pretty much came to me. Every time that I would meet somebody and they would say, like, hey, what do you do? I would say, hey, like, I pretty much do social media content. And, are you looking for some. That's pretty much what that was my pitch, pretty much. And they were like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. Like, you run, my page for me. And then I said,
Mhm.
yeah, sure. And then they asked me like, how much do you charge? And I would be like, I don't know. Like, I had no idea. I had no price structure, no nothing. And like, how much would you pay? And they're like, okay, 500, 200, whichever. I was like, sure, I'll do it. So I didn't really kind of like go after that industry. It kind of found me in a sense. And then when the pandemic started and we had the closures, a lot of the actual past business owners or entrepreneurs that I knew that I also helped out during that time, they also reached out to me and asked me like, hey, like what can we actually do right now because we have closures and we can't actually service our clients right now. And my response to them was like, hey, use this time to focus on your website and your social platforms. And then that way, when you're ready to reopen again, you at least have a presence. So that was pretty much how I started developing more on like the services side. So I started doing websites, landing pages, and social media. Those were my main things. And it kind of developed more in focusing in that industry per se, for speakers per se. And then it came to life coaches eventually. But that only came because during COVID, a little bit like a year afterwards, I got diagnosed with ulcer colitis, which is an air bowel disease that affects usually like up to your colon. And if it's left untreated, it can actually lead to actual colon cancer. So at that time, I pretty much had like a low self-esteem in terms of what I can actually do. But the one thing that I knew that I can rely on was building this business. It kept me, how do you say, motivated, distracted in a sense, not focusing too much on the negative impacts of it. And then at that same time, I had to go through a lot of treatments, speaking to a lot of dietitians, for example. And at the same time, they also gave me a lot of understanding of how their industry works and also like what their pain points were. And I also knew how to actually help them out there. So it was actually a fair exchange because then I started focusing more on helping them because they had helped me so much.
Interesting, interesting. And how, like you started out doing all these things and now it kind of snowballed into, you basically building Turn It Up Live Media. And I'm sure like you mentioned, that you had, your setbacks in that aspect, to say that, you had sorry if I'm not saying it correctly, it's called colon appendicitis, right?
Ulcerative colitis.
Oh, interesting. So, what was, like, I know in that time you were thinking, like everything is probably the world is spinning or is against you. And how were you basically able to come back from that and, build the business in the way that you have been able to build? Because I think a lot of people, especially at that point in time, would have just simply given up. What made you want to continue building the business?
Well, I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs will relate to this, but when you believe in something and you actually do want to do what you want to do, you'll figure it out. And no matter what's going on around you, I mean, you gotta just have the perseverance to push through. And for me, for the longest time, I just wanted to have my own entrepreneurship way of living, like where I have my time freedom, my financial freedom, and I can actually decide how I want to live my life. Working for a 9 to 5 was not providing that for me. So my thing was like, hey, it's either that you figure this thing out or you go back to a place where you have no decisions of your own and you have to give your time to somebody else that doesn't value it as much. So I mean, it was pretty clear like what I had to do is either figure out the business side of things and get it working, or I mean, hey, you suffer through it. So that right there was already a push. And then also going through my medical condition, I had a lot of medical bills that I had to pay as well. So that had to come from somewhere. So for me, it was like, hey, you got to figure it out. You got to be able to generate some income because I mean, it's a do or die situation. That's why it's turn it up live. Yeah, you got to turn it up. There ain't no way around it. You know what I'm saying? It's either you turn it up or you die. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And I was ready to die. So for me, I was like, hey, I got to figure this thing out. But how about you, Ferry? Like, I'm sure you've noticed in like your entrepreneurship, like process that sometimes you just got to really push through, right?
100%. I mean, I haven't really spoken about it in terms of my story. I'm still gonna make a video around it, basically covering like, my journey and what I've been able to, basically go through. I had a point in time when, I had really bad ulcers, and it nearly took me out. Nearly took me out, but it was like one of the darkest times because in as much as, I spent a whole month in my final year of high school, my dad passed away not too long from that. And that ultimately led me to, just focusing on what I needed to focus on in order to build. Because, at the end of the day, like losing a parent is something that, is pretty difficult. But I think, it also just brings, that clarity as well to say, hey, like, he would be so proud of me, like looking at what I'm doing at the moment. And now let me just continue to try my best to make sure that he's continuously proud of me. And, like, this all happened, when I was what, 18, 19. So now I'm 22. It's been a couple years, but it's just, something that never fully leaves. It just, is the reason why you just keep building each and every single day. Because I know it's much bigger than, just focusing on cash. It's also just making the younger version of myself, super proud. I don't know if you agree with that though. What's your take
Oh
on that?
yeah, definitely. Like, and blessings to you because it does take a lot to be able to push through those kind of situations, especially, having parents, that were supportive and, guiding you through life and then losing them, and nothing that's going to be able to replace that. But I mean, for me, I can definitely say that yes, I understand what you're saying because sometimes you do have to really put things aside and really just focus on everything, like business is somewhat easier for some, but depending on how you learn, especially when it comes to like understanding new technologies and how to implement, I mean, sometimes it does get a little overwhelming because you have to learn your own learning style as well. So for me on my side, it was definitely rediscovering how I am as a person and being able to build on top of that because my future self definitely would be also looking down and be like, wow, okay, like you definitely took what it had to put it through and make it happen, even though if it took the time that it needed to take. But perseverance and pushing through, having that tolerance is so important. 100%.
100%. And that time aspect that you mentioned just now, like, was it always, like easy, or did things always happen fast paced for you, or did it take a long time to get to where you are right now?
In terms of what specifically? In terms of like the business side of things, or which one? Which side?
Both personal business, both, like your take on, things taking time or being fast paced, or however you view it, essentially.
Okay. So for me, backstory. So I come from the hood, right? So for me, like
Hmm.
fast pace, I've seen. I've seen people getting fast money. So for me, I was already accustomed to being able to see that it's possible. Seeing that, hey, you can go from literally waking up one day and making $10,000 straight up and come into your bank account. I mean, that was something that I was already able to see and witness. And because of that belief, I knew that what I was into, which is like 9 to 5, was the slow route because the people that were in that, which is like family members, friends, they weren't doing so good, you know. Although luckily for me, entrepreneurship was the thing that really pulled me. It really got me out. I wasn't doing the whole like slaying anything or nothing like that. Blessings to God. But for me, it was like I have to figure it out. And yes, it did take some time. Like I didn't figure out the first time. But what was great about my story is that I come from a good at like how do you say I'm very quick on my feet sometimes. So when it came to like figuring out how to generate income, I was able to do. Like I come from a one parent home as well, so I always have to make my own income. I didn't want my mom to depend on just like me to only like survive or anything like that. But I just wanted to at least have some income going on so she doesn't have to really worry about, hey, like where's the next thing gonna come, right? Because when you live in a one parent home, that's usually what it is. Like either mom or you got dad that's providing for everything, right? And if you have a big family and you have sisters and brothers, I mean that's a lot for them, right? So when it came to like either doing like side jobs or whether it be like, hey, I have my PlayStation, I have to sell it, for example. I mean, I was figuring it out. There was even this one time, I'll tell you a story that there was a store that was about to close. There was this like this furniture store that also had electronics. and it had like a liquidation sale where they were pretty much putting everything out at like 80% off, right? Because they were literally closing like a week. So luckily for me, I saw and I pretty much saw the poster and I went to the store and I literally bought all the flat screen TVs that I could. And they were like pretty much at like usually 500 to 600 bucks and they were pretty much at like 199, you know? So I was pretty much buying them up. And then what I did is I went online, posted them on the site called Kijiji we have over here. And literally I would be getting sales for like 500 bucks. And then I would use that
Jeez.
and I would pretty much cash that in and I would pretty much be able to actually like get my shoes, get my dress. You know, I was pretty much like settled at that point, right? So I mean, for things like that, I'm pretty good at that, you know. And also connections, you know, connections really build me as well because there's a few times like because of the people I knew, it opened up some doors as well. They open up some like, hey, you know somebody that does this? Yeah, that's Jean-Francois right there. So I'll send you Jean-Francois's contact. And then hey, that's how I got a lot of my clients as well. So sometimes you do not see the immediate results, but it's just not your time yet. You know, that's what it is. So until you do get your time, you just got to keep working on yourself, like personally and mentally, to be able to get ready for when it comes. Because when it does come, man, it's gonna hit, man. It's gonna hit so hard. You're gonna be like, wow, like I waited so long for this. Now I'm not even ready for this. That's what you'll tell yourself at the beginning. But if you look deep down, you'll realize that all the things that you went through literally prepared you for this moment.
100%, 100%. And I like that you mentioned the connections part. But just before I get, asking you the question that I wanted to ask you, like when you were, hustling and you were, connecting with a lot of different people, were you the only person or did you have like a community of people that were like-minded and had the same ambitions and goals that you had, to build, turn up live media or something similar, basically to build a business. Like, did you have a group of people around you that had this shared mindset?
So yes and no. So pretty much like going through my teenage years, I kind of had more or less people that are more 9 to 5 oriented. It was
Mm-hmm.
only in college years that that's when I kind of like drifted because there's this thing called affiliate marketing. If people that are on this call know, but if you don't, look it up. It pretty much is able to get you into kind of like a business entrepreneurial mindset without having to own a full business. So it's already pre-built. All it is pretty much promoting somebody else's service or product. And at that time, I had been approached by a few people about certain businesses like that, right? And I joined because at that time I didn't have much in terms of like income or things going on. And during that time, you get put into teams, right? So you get put in what is called like an upline, which is like your mentor in a sense. And then they have like a team around them. But because most of these affiliate marketers are not really, how do you say, well versed in business, sometimes you just get put with somebody that's just a day to day person and they just started and they didn't build a business. So yes, I would get into rooms with some entrepreneurs that are like minded that want growth, but the downside of that is that you don't really get as much of the business side that you need to be able to really grow as a business owner. So I got, like I said, exposed to a lot of possibilities of what's out there, and some business owners were able to show me that hey, you can think bigger. Although the structuring and then being able to actually push through to now where my Turn It Up Live company is, I wasn't able to get it right. For me, it was more or less by life experiences and then being able to take from different segments of what I've learned. I pretty much implemented that all together and consolidated so I can actually now build my own way of actually operating my own business. That's pretty much what got me into it. But I was also part of a community like 2 years ago with Iman Gadzi, and then that also gave me a lot of great connections. You know, like that right there was where I saw what it was like to become an actual like community member of like-minded individuals. Because there you found people from all across the world that really like from 13 to like 15 to even up to like 24, 35, and people were literally like generating real income starting from scratch and building their businesses. And that's at that moment, that's when I started realizing like community and like-minded people do exist and are actually able to collaborate together and grow. So that was that first time only that I was able to see that.
Interesting. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, you're actively building out your own basically business community, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I have an accountability group where it comes to like holding you accountable when it comes to pushing through in your business goals. Like for us, it's
Mm-hmm.
all about like whatever you're working on right now. Sometimes you do need to be, people around you that just keep you aware that you need to take the task at hand and being able to complete it. So we do have weekly sessions, whether it be on role play, whether it be on marketing or systems, be able to implement, and we actually help you at least stay on your goals. So that way you can push forward and not stay behind.
Interesting, interesting. And was it easy to start like with this community? Like, did you just message different people and say, "Hey, do you want to join this community?" Or how did that basically come about?
Oh man. So how that came about was really about me not being holding myself accountable for my own goals, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
last year, I had a goal to be able to get to 750 a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the main part was like staying consistent with my goals while also focusing on fitness and going back on my actual health journey so I can actually become more in balance. It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
difficult managing everything at once, right? So what I started to do was actually being an accountability partner for other people, which they were pretty much telling me like, hey, I need to be held accountable for my fitness goals, or I need to be held accountable for promoting myself more on social media. I need to get accountability for role playing and my sales calls, for example. So
Mm-hmm.
by me being an accountability for them, I started realizing like, hey, I don't have an accountability for myself, right? Because I was accountable, but when it came to people holding me accountable, I didn't really have that. So I was like, man, like it wouldn't be cool to have like a group of people or even somebody to actually hold me accountable. So I pretty much said like to a few people like, hey, how's about we do an exchange? Like I'll hold you accountable and then hold me accountable because I have a lot of things that I want to do. And I want to speak on stages. I want to be able to connect with more people. I want to be able to do events. I wanted to, I wanted to do a lot of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I told a few people, I was like, hey, would you be open to that? And they said, yeah, sure. Where do we start? And I said, okay, let's get started this week. And they're like, okay, perfect. So I started actually just starting like a one-on-one group where we're just me and
Mm-hmm.
one person. And then other people started asking me like, hey, can I actually be an accountability partner for you? And I said, hey, how's about this? How's about we actually start a group and then we can all hold each other accountable and start actually promoting each other, motivating each other to be able to start holding all of us accountable. And that's where I pretty much put our accountability group to be able to actually achieve that for each other.
Interesting. And this is like business only, like business owners only in this accountability group, right?
Well, primarily you'll find a lot of business owners in there, right? Although we're not
Mm-hmm.
going to push you out if you're not a entrepreneur. Although that's what I attract. I attract usually entrepreneurs and business owners because that's the field that
Mm-hmm.
I'm in.
Of course, of course. You attract who you are in a sense, correct?
100%. I would definitely believe in that.
I agree. I agree. And like with these, accountability partners, I know a lot of people like to look at it like as a monetization play to say, hey, like a lot of back end deals are gonna come from this. Do you view it in the same light or not at all? Or do you just view it solely as just this is my accountability partner and no business deals that come from it like will be involved?
Well, so for me, I really don't focus on that. If people want to
Mm-hmm.
do their own deals or make their own collaboration, that's between them. But for us, it's really just connecting with people that are like looking for a solution, which is like I need to be held accountable. So that's the main point of being in that group.
100%. I agree. I know you mentioned that you wanted to do public speaking and you're going to speak on stages. I'm so curious about that. Has it always been something that, you've always felt within you to go on stages, to be a public speaker and, just basically admired as a young kid growing
Oh
up or even
heck
now?
no, man! Heck no! Nah, man, never wanted to be a speaker out there, man. Listen, for me, it goes back to like high school. Even more than that. I think
Mhm,
elementary. Um, there was this time where we had a task to write a poem, right? I think I
mhm,
was like in maybe fifth grade, and I pretty much took my time to write this poem. Like I really, really made like a sweet poem. It was pretty funny too. And my
mhm.
teacher literally like I don't know, she fell in love with the poem. Like She was like, "Oh my God, this is so funny. This is so great. You should actually present it in a next school presentation. Like we're actually hosting one, and it's gonna be in front of the whole school, so you can present it." When she
Mhm.
said that, I had so much fear and anxiety in my whole body that I was like, in my head, I was like, "No way, I ain't doing that." But
Mhm.
what came out was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." Like that's what came out. Because she was so sweet and she was such a great teacher, right? So I pretty much said yes. And as soon as I got on stage, I froze up. Like I froze up so much because it's different when you're in a crowd of like your classmates because you're there every day, especially if you're in elementary. It's the same people you see all the time, right? For a good year, right? But
Mhm.
now you're exposed to all these different kind of students that are all from different classes. So you're kind of like, hey, I'm in front of strangers now, right? So that
Mhm.
first day I froze up and I really couldn't even like say the words out of my mouth. So I pretty much left it alone. I kind of like just left it there and then I pretty much walked off stage and that was like the most embarrassing moment of my life almost, right? So a couple of years after that though, when I actually got into what's called to what's the secondary, what's secondary I call
Secondary education.
high
I mean,
school.
secondary high school. High school.
Yeah, so when I got to high school, my bad, my French coming in. So when I got to high school, I pretty much got to a point where I was more outgoing and I was pretty much doing a lot of dance. So I was dancing like krump, break dance, hip hop, and things like that. So there
Mhm.
would be some times where I would be performing on stage. So during that time, I was more outgoing and it was working well as well. And then what happened next was that I got into drama class. And during
Mhm.
drama class, that's where I pretty much got really good at presenting as well. So
Mhm.
I always kind of had the skill sets that were developing in me to present in front of people, but I never really saw myself as a speaker or somebody to really like motivate or educate people in that sense. But because now I'm in the business and I'm in also like in a position where I coach a lot of my what's it called my clients in terms of what they're looking to do. I mean, now I get to practice that approach a lot, right? And they actually led me to actually start a lot of webinars as well, relating to actually presenting like the skill sets and the actual tools you need to be able to grow your business. And I've presented like at least a good 20 times, like just this year alone. So I'm getting more used to that. And now it's building it towards where I'll be doing more in-person events and being able to help the youth as well implement a lot of ways to use marketing to be able to start their own businesses because that's where I find that a lot of youth don't know that that's a possibility when they come from a 9 to 5 mentality where they're thinking I just have to get a job. So I want to be able now to speak to like community centers where they're able to actually see that it's possible, that you're able to just like pick up your laptop and generate money online like it's possible, right? So that's what I want to start doing as well. So 2026 is probably going to be heavily on that.
Let's go. Let's go. And just one, two more questions because I know we have to quickly bounce. Number one, rapid fire. Number one, what is the biggest lesson that you've been able to learn throughout your entire business journey that you always carry with you?
Believe in yourself 100%. That's the number one thing. I'm telling you, adversity will come your way. And that's the one thing that I have in terms of like skill. Like, no matter
Mm,
what, as long as I believe in myself, I mean, I pulled through a lot of situations. And that's the
mhm.
number one thing that I say a lot of people are lacking nowadays is the self belief that you can do it.
Of course, I love that. And number two, is that all, or do you have something else more to add? Sorry.
No, that's pretty much all it is. The number one thing you need is belief
Cool.
in you.
Cool. And number two, basically share. You can share your webinar, what it is exactly that you're doing, so people know, if they want to work with you or they want to partner up with you into the future, they know what exactly you're doing. You can just elaborate a bit more on that.
Okay, well, on October, it's going to be October 13th. I'm going to actually be hosting a webinar online when it comes to how to utilize the Choose You method, which is choosing yourself to be able to focus on your well being and being able to do it in a way that's healthy and also going to be able to serve you when it comes to building your business. So that's going to be on October 13th. If you want to know more information on that, follow me on Instagram. The Instagram handle is J dot x Francois. So that's J dot x Francois, and then we'll be able to connect there, and I'll give you more details on that.
100%. I'll just link it in the description if anyone's wondering. Mr. Jean-Francois, I appreciate you, man, for hopping on to here. I know we have a like a hard stop where we have to kind of end it here. Definitely gonna have a round two if you're down.
Oh yeah, man.
Are you
Definitely. I have to
done?
hear your story, man. Perry, I was talking the whole time. Come on, man.
Of course, of course. 100%. Round two as soon as possible. We can just schedule it and then get it cooking. I'm excited. And thank you, Mr. Jean-Francois, for coming on board, sharing some sauce. And if anyone wants to connect with Mr. Jean-Francois, make sure to check out the links in the description. Any final words?
Man, just keep on moving forward. Keep on turning up for yourself because nobody else will, man. Blessings to you all. Thank you for showing up.
100%. Thank you, Mr. Jean-Francois. All right, peace.